Hello, Greenfield. I'm Superintendent Galvan here with the Greenfield Union School District, reading you a beautiful selection this week as we celebrate differences. And this selection is called Those Shoes. So it is written by Maribel Boltz, and I'm going to share with you a little bit about what is in here. So let's say that in Spanish. Hola, comunidad de Greenfield. Soy Superintendente Galvan, el del sitio escolar de Greenfield, leyendo otra historia con ustedes, celebrando esta semana las diferencias entre nosotros. Y esta historia se llama Esos zapatos. Y es sobre la historia de un niño que quiere unos zapatos que todos los demás tienen. So, a ver lo que pasa en esta historia con su abuelita. So let's find out what happens in this selection of those shoes with his grandmother and the shoes that he wants. So let's see if we can learn a little bit from this one. So Those Shoes by Maribel Boltz and illustrated by Noah Jones. So there's a little boy. Buy these shoes, it says. I have dreams about those shoes. Black high tops, 2 white stripes. He really wants those shoes. Grandma, I want them. Oh, baby, there is no room for want around here. Just need, Grandma says. What you need are new boots for winter. Brandon T comes to school in those shoes. He says he's the fastest runner now, not me. I was always the fastest before those shoes came along. Nate comes to school in those shoes. Antonio and I count how many times Nate goes to the bathroom. 7 times in one day, just so he can walk up and down the hall really slow and show off the shoes. Next, Alan, Jacoby, and Terrence, they get the same shoes too. They have those shoes. Then one day, in the middle of kickball, one of my shoes comes apart. Looks like you could use a new pair, Jeremy, Mr. Alfrey said, the guidance counselor. He brings out a box of shoes and other stuff he has for kids who need things. He helps me find the only shoes that are my size. Velcro, like the ones my little cousin has. They have an animal on them from a cartoon I don't even think any kid has ever watched. But he needs them, right? So the counselor's being really nice to give him a pair of shoes that he needs. When I come back to the classroom, Alan Jacoby takes one look at my Mr. Alfrey shoes and laughs at me. And so do Terrence, Brandon, and everyone else. The only kid not laughing is Antonio Parker. At home, Grandma says, "That is so kind of Mr. Alfrey." I nod and I turn my back. I'm not going to cry about any dumb shoes. But when I'm writing my spelling words later, every word looks like the word shoes. And my grip is so tight on my pencil, I think it might bust. On Saturday, Grandma says, let's check out those shoes you've been wanting so much. I got a little bit of money that I set aside, and it might be enough, but you never know. At the shoe store, Grandma turns those shoes over so she can check the price. When she sees it, she sits down heavily. Oh, maybe they wrote it down wrong, she said, and Grandma shook her head. Why do you think Grandma shook her head? Probably because those shoes cost too much money. Boys and girls, sometimes your mom and dad, they can't buy you the things that you want. They buy you the things that you need. And so these shoes were probably very expensive, and their family doesn't have enough money to pay for them. Then I remember the thrift shops. What if there's a rich kid out there, and he got 2 pairs of those shoes for Christmas, and he had to give one away? Maybe they're at the thrift store. We ride the bus to the first thrift shop. Black cowboy boots, pink slippers, sandals, high heels, every kind of shoes you can think of were there, except the ones I want. We ride the bus to the second thrift shop, and not a pair of those shoes in sight. Around the corner, in the third thrift shop? I see something in the window. It's a Rerun Thrift Shop is the name of that one. Black shoes with 2 white stripes. High tops, perfect shape, $2.50. Those shoes! My heart is pounding. Hard as I take off my shoes and I hitch up my baggy socks. Oh my gosh, how exciting, said Grandma. What size are they? I shove my foot inside that first shoe, curling my toes to get my heel in. I don't know, but I think they fit. Do they fit or does he want to make sure they fit? Let's see. Grandma kneels on the floor and feels for my toes at the end. Oh, Jeremy, she says, I can't spend good money on these shoes. They don't fit you. I pull the other shoe on and try to walk around. They're okay, I say, holding my breath and praying that my toes will fall off right then and there to make sure it fits. But my toes don't fall off. I buy them anyway with my own money, and I squeeze them on, and I limp to the bus stops. He bought them anyways. At home, a few days later, Grandma puts a new pair of snow boots in my closet and doesn't say a word about my 2 big feet shuffling around in my tiny little shoes. Sometimes shoes stretch, I say, and Grandma gives me a hug. I check every day, but those shoes don't stretch. I have to wear my Mr. Alfre's to school instead. And one day during math, I glance at Antonio's shoes. One of them is taped up, and his feet look smaller than mine. After school, I head to the park to think. Antonio was there, the only kid who didn't laugh when I was wearing Mr. Alfre's shoes. We shoot baskets together, and a loose piece of tape on Antonio's shoe smacks the concrete every time he jumps. I think I'm not going to do it. I think I'm not going to do it. We leap off the swings. I'm not going to do it. We race from one end and the playground to the other. I'm not going to do it. I say, do what? Antonio says, breathing hard. Grandma calls me for supper and invites Antonio over to the house too. After supper, he spies my shoes. Whoa! How come you don't wear these shoes? Antonio asks. I shrug. Well, my hands are sweaty. I can feel him wishing that those shoes were his. That night, I'm awake for a long time, thinking about Antonio. When morning comes, I try on my shoes one last time. Before I can change my mind, the shoes are in my coat. Snow is beginning to fall as I run across the street to Antonio's apartment. I put the shoes in front of the door. I push the doorbell and I run. At school, Antonio is smiling big in his brand new shoes. I feel happy when I look at his face and mad when I look at my shoes. But later, when it's time for recess, something happens. Everywhere there is snow. Leave your shoes in the hall and change into your boots, everyone, the teacher announces. Leave your shoes in the hall. It's then that I remember what I have in my backpack. New boots. New black boots that no kid has ever worn before. Standing in the line to go to recess, Antonio leans forward and says, "Thanks." I smile and I give him a nudge. He knows he gave it to him all. He nudges him and he says, "Let's race." And they run. That was a really nice selection. So those shoes. So a couple things we learned from this story today. Number one, there's a difference between wanting things and needing things. So I want you to talk to your parents about that, just so that they understand, or you understand, the difference. And then the other thing in here is, wow, how sweet he was. At the very end, the shoes didn't fit him, so he gave them to his friend. And so that was really an important moment because he shared what he had, even though he really wanted them. And at the end, how cool was that? Those best friends decided to race, right? So really nice selection on the differences, but also how we celebrate and help each other. So boys and girls, we're continuing to read some really great stories this week, and I want to thank you for joining me every day because it's a special time that we can read together. So I'm Superintendent Galvan with the Greenfield Union School District, sending you a great big bear hug from our family to yours.